Regular meeting for the Hammonton Planning Board and Hammonton Zoning Board of Adjustment now please come to order for October 19, 2022. A notice of this meeting has been properly posted on the bulletin board reserved for such notices on the first floor of Town Hall and mailed to 2 newspapers pursuant to law. To the rear of the council chamber is a diagram with location of fire exits. Everyone attending this meeting should become familiar with this diagram. In the event of a fire, you may exit this building safely. All cell phones will be silenced during this meeting, and there will be no smoking in Town Hall at any time. Pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the Secretary please conduct the official roll call for Hammonton Planning Board for October 19, 2022?
Ralph Capaccio.
Present.
Michael Hozick. Michael Messina.
Present.
Gordon Faribault. Mickey Palia.
Here.
Ray Scipione. Councilman Oliva.
Here.
Councilman Willerman. Bill Brinkerhoff.
Here.
Jonathan Bask. Chris Kalani. James Matro.
Here.
And Chairman Marinelli.
Here. Thank you. Members of the board received a copy of the September 7th, 2022 minutes. If there's no addition or corrections to those minutes, at this time I'll accept a motion to approve those minutes as received. Mr. Palia first,
I'll second it.
and Mr. Messina second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Minutes of September 7th, 2022 are now approved as received.
Hey, Shelley, I'll abstain since I wasn't at the last meeting. For that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, good to
Thank
go.
you. We have only one issue tonight before the planning board, and that is application of Tyler Dornwas, 623 North 3rd Street, Hammonton, New Jersey, block 2104, lot 7. Adam Raymond Hagman, application 11-70021.09, and application for the planning board is 15-21 planning board. The applicant seeks approval for a curb and sidewalk waiver. Mr. Ross, would you please come up and raise your right hand? Yes, sir. Raise your right hand and be sworn in by the solicitor, please.
If you could pick up that handheld mic.
Yeah, just push the button, make sure it's open. On.
Test. I do.
Proceed, sir.
To be honest with you, Mr. Chairman, I've never done one of these before.
Right. Just
So
take your time, and you're at home here. Everybody's friendly.
I have
Yes.
the, give me 1 second here. Paperwork from ARH who reviewed it.
Right.
And honestly, I agree with them.
Speak up
There-
just a little bit.
I'm sorry, and I agree with their findings, which is that they don't see curb and sidewalks necessary on my property. No one has curb and sidewalks on 3rd Street from my property, at least 2,000 feet, I think closest to town
Right.
would be. They passed it off and recommended that the county make a ruling on it, since 3rd Street's a county road. I believe it's 721. And the Atlantic County, Brian Walters reviewed the grading plan and advised
Did the county make a ruling on it?
that they will not require
Would you
curb or
get that in
sidewalks.
writing?
Yes, sir. I have an email here from Brian
Do we have
Walters.
a copy of that? Do you have a copy there?
I do, sir.
The solicitor has it.
Pardon me?
The solicitor has it.
Oh, solicitor, you have it? Solicitor? No, nobody has it?
said you had
No.
Okay,
I
you
see
gotta
it's
forward that.
included in the review by the applicant. Please read it to us.
It's very short. Tyler, after review, the county will not require curb or sidewalk along your property which fronts along 3rd Street in Hammonton. Let me know if you need any additional information. Brian Walters, Supervising Planner, Atlantic County Department of Regional Planning and Development.
Do you have any other thoughts or beliefs on why you shouldn't put sidewalks and curbing. Why I say that, I believe where you're going to build this home, there's no shoulder. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, no shoulder.
Not much. There's not
None.
much shoulder there, right?
None, sir.
None, hardly. And my concern is people walk along. I know the other homes, we weren't here, the planning board, to review them and stick them, but it's always nice, I think, that it looks like it's a finished project, you follow me. But what's your thoughts beside the county?
Honestly, sir, I believe that if we're going to do curb and sidewalks on 3rd Street, it would look better as a community if it was done by a town or county project and all done at once. So that they could, instead of just picking my property in the middle of the 3rd Street to use a sidewalk, and then they got to go right back into the danger zone that you're talking about where they're walking. The other thing is, and this was not in writing, but I spoke to...
Speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry, this was not in writing, and spoke to the county engineers. We actually had an on-site meeting about a separate issue. They weren't going to allow us to put curb and sidewalks, because I did think, I'm like, it's, as I was pricing it out at one point, I would have liked to have done it. They basically said that they weren't going to allow it because of the water drainage issue. They would have
What's the frontage of your lot? How wide is your lot?
100 feet, sir.
100 feet? I see. Okay, I respect your opinion, sir. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you for allowing me the
Members of the
time.
board, question for this applicant? Nobody has questions for this applicant? Okay. We'll move on to the town engineer. Your report, please.
Yes, sir, thank you. Before I start, I wanted to ask you a question about this plan that's on our desk. I don't believe I've seen this plan. This plan does show sidewalk. So are you saying you're proposing to not do that?
Yes, sir. The curb, yeah, no curb or sidewalk.
All right, yeah, I don't have any records of this being submitted to us for review as part of a lot grading plan, which typically we review and approve prior to issuing a building permit. So the only thing I have in my file was like basically the survey and showing a proposed dwelling. But I do want to, I guess, this may kind of seem like it's going off on some tangents. I do want to bring some things up. The first issue is, in our letter, we certainly, back in December, we reviewed this and issued a letter, and our recommendation at the time is to, as far as curb goes, we agree. Based on the drainage situation, there's no curb anywhere. We have no issue with if you wanted to grant the curb waiver. In our letter here, we originally had said regarding the sidewalk, we were in agreement that if you decided to issue a waiver, we are fine with that. I do want to point out that the town has received a lot of money, a grant to provide sidewalks in this area, particularly from the elementary school and 4th all the way down North Street. So at some point in the near future, you can expect we have sidewalk all the way down North Street to 3rd. And then I believe the town has additional goals to further expand that, mainly, I guess that would be to the east more, where that field is, St. Joe's old field is. So I did want to bring it to your attention for your consideration, or for your information. The other thing is, I don't know, Mr. Dormas, did you get a letter today from the county engineer?
I did not.
Yeah, this actually came to me literally at, I would say, 4:45 today. You're copied, so you may, I don't know if you're going to get an email or if you're going to get a hard copy. Basically, it reiterates, it more discusses the other issue at hand, which is, well, there's two. I guess the first one is, it seems like you didn't pull a county permit to build the driveway, which was required. So you'll see that. I don't know what it says. This violation should be cured before any approval or certificate of occupancy is issued.
Who's the letter from, sir?
It's from the Atlantic County, from Doug DeMayo, who is the new county engineer. So that was the one issue he brought up, is that the driveway is built without the appropriate. When you do work on a county road, it's their jurisdiction, and they require a county road opening permit to make sure that you're doing the proper improvements in their road, on their right of way. They have certain details and requirements they want for whether it's concrete, asphalt of
Yes,
that
sir.
nature.
I
So
wasn't aware of that, and
Yeah.
I don't have a driveway as of right now.
it does say that it's, well, here, I'm just saying, it says that a new driveway has been installed on the county road without a permit, so that's what it says here, so I'm just letting you know. The second thing is, the issue that we talked about with the drainage issue was that there is an inlet in front of the property which had a pipe that drains Third Street, and it actually went, I guess, parallel to his easterly property line to the back, right? Now, if you go back 100 years, years, you look at the old map, there used to be, before this was developed, there was a stream corridor through here. You'll see an old blue line. So at some point, probably before you, me, born, everything like that, it was piped from the road to the back of the corner. Now, the grading plan that I have, and maybe, I guess you have these plans. Does everybody have this plan? So in the back corner, you can see the depression area where there's 95 contour. That's about where the pipe, I think, it terminated.
No, sir, in the middle there.
In the middle?
In the middle of the property in the back.
So it terminated in the middle, but the idea was that it connected from the inlet, which is about, not quite in the middle of the road, right above the 98, you'll see an inlet label. A pipe was from there to about the middle of the property, and then it discharged, and then it meandered to the back, and then it meandered all the way through, and then it came out. I believe there's like a little stream further that goes underneath North, and then it comes out under Fourth as well. So that needs to be resolved. I would defer to Mr. Vivardi on this, but I'm not sure that issue is related to this.
That should not impact your decision to curb and sidewalk waiver. That's a separate issue that would prevent him from getting a CO if he did not comply with the county engineer. It's not a reason to grant or deny his.
That won't be settled by this board, it'll be settled by,
Will not be resolved. Will be resolved by the county.
okay, and the county, and, okay, very good.
But I
Continue.
did want to bring this up because, like I said, it was emailed before the meeting, and I want you to at least hear all the information before we made the decision. The letter from the county stipulates there is a county code that has to be met when these types of projects are undertaken. So they are saying that anything that they need to resolve the drainage issue before the CO is issued. But I want to make sure that Mr. Memori will read in regarding this impacts what we're asking for or not. But again, to go back to the beginning, I will, for your information, the town has plans for a couple years now to extend sidewalk down North Street, which is about 230 feet away from Mr. Dornwass's property. Other than that, I don't have any other thing to add.
Chairman, could I ask the applicant one question? Mr. Dornwass, do you understand that if the town decides at sometime in the near future or distant future that they're going to put sidewalks in that area and combine all of those properties like you said, that you'll be obligated to cooperate with the city and provide possibly contribution to those sidewalks if that's chosen at some time? That this waiver does not alleviate that obligation?
I did understand that, yes. Mr. Herman, since you brought all that to note, and like I said, I haven't seen that letter, but it sounded like you said I'm in violation of something. Is that?
I'll give you. I know you should. I don't know if you have this. Like, I don't know if this came by email. This has your name. It doesn't say if you emailed this or if you. I will give you this. You can have this copy. But it does say that at this time the property owner is in violation of County Code 72 because a new driveway has been installed on the county road without the required permit. That violation should be cured before approval certificate of occupancy is issued and the property is occupied. That's just from the county. You can have this if you want to take that with you and read it. Again, it has no impact with what here, but I'm just letting you know that's from the county engineer as of 4:45 today. Okay. So
I understand, sir.
and I don't know what.
There is no driveway on the property yet. It's still under construction.
Okay.
If there's a construction entrance, they probably would
That's probably what-
require that and as an open. They would probably classify that as an opening for a construction entrance too. So that could be it.
Yeah, I mean,
just contact the.
Yeah, I would follow up with the county, and, you know, I can't imagine there's anything that's really, you know, major that you're going to have to deal with, but it's
No,
just-
thank you. I just,
probably just, I would call Mr. DeMayo or his office, and they'll certainly get you in the right direction. I guess it's good that you didn't build, you know, at least now they can verify that the apron that you want to put or the driveway you want to do here is in conformance with their standards, which I don't think are any more strict than we require. But yeah, if you want to take that and for your records,
Thank you.
can sort of have that. So again, I know it kind of went to the drainage issue, came back to the sidewalk issue. That's all. And Mr. McWhorter made a good point. Just, you know, we typically ask if and when we decide to do any expansion, you'd be in agreement with that. It sounds like you are. So that concludes anything I have to offer for you tonight.
Members of the board, question for the town engineer.
I have a quick
Go ahead.
question, Chairman. The paving, the county's paving on 3rd Street. Mark, do we have any update on the paving there? I know that a little further down they were doing they were doing curbing work. And I didn't know if that curbing work was extending this direction, but I didn't believe so. I think at the bend is where it stopped.
Yeah, that's where it's not coming down any further. That was, you mean for that development back there that you're talking about for the cul-de-sac further up?
No, so I think the county has plans to pave 3rd Street
okay. Yes.
from Fairview Avenue out towards the township line. And then there were some curbing work that was done, you know, around the bend past not North Street. Francis, past
yeah.
Francis. On the left-hand side, they'd done some curbing.
I think that was for a specific isolated drainage issues.
Okay.
So, but I believe the road is strictly going to be just repaved with no curbing.
Okay, so if there's no plans for curbing, it's reasonable that the county is designing that road with appropriate inverts, assuming there is not going to be curbing
That's correct.
in that area. Okay. With regards to the Safe Ways to School or Safe Roads to School grant dollars that the town has acquired and is acquiring, extending sidewalks from 4th Street down north to 3rd, what's the time frame for such project to materialize?
I'm not sure. I know Mr. Batiste, I believe he's here. That's a town. He's handling that. We're not involved in that project, so I'm not privy to meetings or schedule, so I don't know the answer to that, but I do know it's been advanced, and Mr. Batiste has been working with the consultant that was hired for this project. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Any further questions for the town engineer? This time, I'd like to open up to the public. Anybody from the public wishes to be heard concerning this application, please come forward. Thank you, sir. Applicant, thank you.
My name is Robert Fatisse. I'm Public Works Manager for the Town of Hammonton.
Thank you.
Just to clear up a couple things, the county that's going to be paving 3rd Street, it goes from Wells Avenue to the town line. That's where
Speak
it
up just a little
stops.
bit.
The other thing is for the Safe Routes to Schools, that's probably about 2 years away. They just finalized their preliminary approval. The design consultant for that is GPI. They're going to be finalizing those plans probably over the next year or two. They're going to do an environmental study also. So probably 2024 would be sometime during that time frame. And what that does is when it gets to North Street, it establishes the curb at the North Street intersection on 3rd Street. And actually, they're putting handicap ramps on either side, and they're actually going to extending across walk at the North Street intersection. And again, when we applied for funds for this was back in 2018, and everything got delayed with COVID. But at that time, St. Joe was still occupying the ball fields, for football and stuff like that, across from North Street. So there was a crosswalk that was planned and some sidewalk that went down, I guess it'd be the southerly side of 3rd Street up to probably the midpoint of St. Joe's athletic field that was there at that time. So we'll be crossing through there. And the Safe Routes to Schools program, That, in the intent, we're probably going to get some additional funds because the prices that were around in 2018 don't go as far in 2022 or 2024. So the town will be seeking some additional funds to try and complete at least the work that was applied for. Related to the drainage information that was relayed in the county letter that was issued today, basically there's two existing inlets along the county roadway and a pipe that connects those two inlets, which is a separate issue that'll have to be worked out. And normally the county would defer to the town whether curb should be installed or not, curb or sidewalk, as long as it does not impact county drainage. Now, this particular section does impact county drainage until the drainage issue is resolved, associated with that. So it might not be prudent to place curb and sidewalk on this particular property until that's resolved, because you might be causing some additional concerns related to drainage within that. That's the low point in front of the Dornwasser's property is the low point on that section, for a section of that 3rd Street. There's also, and correct if I'm wrong, there's another house going up next to you? Yes. Okay, so they'll probably have to come in for a curb and sidewalk waiver also. There's an existing older house, and checking with the construction official's office today, they're building a new house next to that, and within a certain period of time, once that house is finished, they have to demolish the older house. So they'll have to come up for a curb and sidewalk. Now, they're a little bit higher in elevation than the subject property, but probably until that drainage issue is resolved, it might cause more detriment than is good. 'Cause I think right now, when the pipe was in that section of property, it would go collected in the inlets, go through the pipe and discharge on an adjacent property downstream, where there's some pipes that were installed by whom, what time period is unknown. But if you install curb and sidewalk now at this location, it might be detrimental to the roadway, and the county points out maybe to some other roadways.
Wouldn't the drainage issue need to be corrected prior to the home being constructed?
There were some discussions related to that, but it has not been corrected. Has not been resolved at this point. And that's another issue between the property owner, the town, and the county that still needs to be resolved. And if the town is involved, I think what the town's position is that it's a county roadway. It's two inlets on a county roadway that needs to be resolved by the county, but that's for further discussion.
Okay.
And correct if I'm saying anything wrong. They're in for curb and sidewalk waivers, so that's what you're
Right.
ruling on.
Anything further?
No, thank
Any
you.
questions? Further questions?
Bob, real quick, how far along is the other house?
I asked that of the county. He couldn't give me an answer. Arwax,
What was your question again?
How far along is the second dwelling that's not here tonight? And how far along is their
yeah,
dwelling? I
actually,
guess?
when you see the curbing going, their part of the project is to put curbing at the intersection of North Street, and
I was asking about the house
other
next
house.
to theirs. How far along is the two
the
houses?
discussion for that, for the discussion with the drainage,
No, how far along are the construction process? How far are in they?
the county's roadway.
No, you were saying there's
How far along are you on your house? Just started dropping. Okay, so you're there. And the house next to you? That's in my. Okay. All right.
There's
Okay.
a couple different things going on at the same
Yeah.
time.
No problem.
And this drainage, this pipe, have you've known about it?
What's that, sir?
You've known about this pipe when you started the house?
It got discovered during the excavation of the foundation.
Anything further? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, welcome.
Anybody else wishes to be heard? Public portion is now closed. Mr. Solicitor, where do we stand?
Yes, could I have a motion to grant the curb and sidewalk waiver for block 2104, lot 7?
Can we have a quick discussion before we
Oh, sure.
move forward? So where the proposed sidewalk is on the plan was to meet existing grade. And I guess I'm having a difficult time with the if the drainage issue is a separate issue, then we're not to consider the drainage issue in conjunction with the curb and sidewalk waiver.
Correct.
So forget that the drainage issue exists.
Well, unless you were going to require sidewalk and curb, which may exacerbate or improve, but according to the engineer, it does not. Leaving it just as it is what's technically sound.
Okay.
If you were going to require it, you would have to have some further discussions as to whether that is in fact making things worse.
Right, and I guess, so for me personally, I'll just put my opinions out there. Certainly, I agree, curbing, we don't want to mess with the county's drainage, or make anything more challenging for them in that process, and it's ultimately their roadway. With the sidewalks, Mr. Vitisse and Mr. Herman did note that we're going to be taking sidewalk out to this area, and I just wouldn't want to be short-sighted and understand that this lot is, or this property is, 3-4 houses from the corner in a direction that we're going to likely plan to extend curb as a community, probably in the short time after the grant, dollars have been expended and we've taken curb to that point. So if there's an opportunity to install to install sidewalk in this area, and possibly a home that's adjacent to it, and then that's only 2 houses, that would need to be filled in between there and North Street. I wouldn't want to miss that opportunity, but I also don't want to exacerbate a drainage issue that currently exists. So I guess as you had said, Mr. McGrady, that in the event that we were to move forward with a curb and sidewalk waiver today, then the event that the town did move forward with extending curb and sidewalk in front of this property and others.
Pursuant to statute, you would be allowed to revisit that. Property owner is aware of that, and it also will be part of the DNR.
Okay.
It basically says that the city is not waiving any of their ability to revisit this if in fact it becomes more appropriate.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sir, would you repeat that motion, please?
I just need a motion to grant the curb and sidewalk waiver for block 2104, lot 7.
Nothing else has to accompany it to,
Nope.
okay. We have a motion on the floor.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Messina first.
Mr. Mitro, second.
Oh, okay, Metro second. Roll call.
Ralph Capaccio,
Yes.
Michael Messina,
Yes.
Mickey Palia,
Yes.
Councilman Oliva,
Yes.
Bill Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
James Matro,
Yes.
Chairman Marinelli.
Yes, motion carried. Application approved as stated. Thank you, sir, for coming and your patience and time. You're on your way. Okay,
Thank you.
good. Members of the board, I think I'd like to have a discussion now, slight discussion, because I think it's time that we do something, attempt to do something, because it seems like we've been spending a lot of time over the years. I know it's over 20 years now, and we've been spending a lot of time over the years to listen to all this testimony, and we're not getting anywhere. So I think that, Mr. Solicitor, is there any way we could, I know it wasn't about, prior to you coming here, with the other solicitor, this board voted to send a report to the mayor and council on sidewalks on the south side of the White Horse Pike because of the fact that assisted living is getting ready to open, and you know there's going to be people walking along the White Horse Pike, and they need a place to go. And at the present time, I see them walking out there. And I think one guy hit last year. But what can we do to come up with something, recommendation of mayor and council, or tell them to look at it?
The question is, what do you want them to do? I mean, in this particular instance, you would be placing a sidewalk, and let's say, and there's multiple properties on both sides that have no sidewalks.
Well, let's come up with something new. For instance,
I'm sorry, Chairman, are you talking about that instance on the
No,
Pike specifically? Overall. Okay.
we need something new,
Overall.
something brand new and shiny. 1957, I built my house on the corner of 4th and Pratt. Now, there was no houses nowhere out there. The other corner was empty. On both sides of me was empty. However, before I was able to get the money and pay the carpenter and the contractor, I had to put in sidewalks, curbing, and driveway. And then I would get my CO and it would be approved. That's back in 1957. I think we need something like that has some kind of, should I say, some kind of structure to it that we could accomplish something. I don't feel how the other board members feel. We're not accomplishing anything but what we're doing. Yes, go ahead.
Well, this board handles the waivers. There is a requirement for there to be curb and sidewalk. That's in the statute. But it provides for that they can come before the planning board and seek a waiver. And this board has generally, at least for the 3 years I've been here, has been very open as far as granting them pretty much all
I
the
think
time.
we should have something that's mandatory.
Well, it is mandatory unless you provide
Well,
the exception. Unless you're
But it's not incorporated within not incorporated within the ordinance. In other words, like I said, before you get your CO, you must put in sidewalks, carway.
If this board doesn't grant a waiver, that's exactly what they would have to do. But if you want to take away the right of this board to provide a waiver, council could do that. It's pretty draconian, but that's up to you as to whether you want to do that. This board was given the right to grant waivers if it appeared to be inappropriate to require a sidewalk. But sidewalks and curbs are required. This is just a waiver from that obligation. And this board, you're right, has generally said, we're going to grant the waivers. But you didn't have to grant this waiver. The curbing, probably with the county, it's their jurisdiction. But
Well, they keep coming up with the same verbiage or language. There's no sidewalks anywhere in the near area.
that's a discretionary decision by you. You could simply say, if you decide as a body, collectively, that, the reason there's no sidewalks is because we keep granting these waivers. But you have the
Members of the board.
You have the authority to do that.
Go ahead, Mick.
One thing we had discussed many years ago, and I remember discussing it with the mayor, was if you're going to be given a waiver for curb and sidewalk, you're going to deposit in the town in a fund the equivalent of what half of the curb and sidewalk would have cost you on your property. And they have done this in other towns, supposedly. I don't know
That's
exactly
not the
which one.
present ordinance, though.
No, that's not the
No.
present ordinance,
Right.
no. And then I guarantee you, if you do something like that, they'll just put the curb and sidewalk in. All of a sudden, there won't
That's
be a
what we need.
drainage
We need
issue or
some
anything
new,
because
fresh ideas.
they're not going to give you money because then you're going to use it as the town council could decide, okay, we have X amount of dollars in the sidewalk fund, we're going to put sidewalk on this street, which might be nowhere near where the people who put the money into the fund are.
Right.
But that's not very popular.
I'm not sure that would be appropriate.
Yeah, they did it somewhere. I forget where. I'd
I'm
have
not
to
sure
ask
it's
Steve.
appropriate to take somebody's money
Yes.
that they're putting in escrow and
That's right.
and do
I think
somebody
that's,
else's
you know,
sidewalk.
It's really a fee, not a deposit.
Yeah, it's a fee more than, but I agree with you,
Good luck.
solicitor. It's you know,
Yeah, depends, I mean,
yeah. So.
it all depends what you want to accomplish. You have the
What we
authority.
want to accomplish to make it's got to be mandatory. You have to put it in.
Well,
I know it-
It currently is mandatory. The
Pardon
only
me?
thing that currently is mandatory. The only thing we
Mandatory,
do,
but it's discretionary.
well, it's at our discretion. So the only people that can give a waiver is
But
us.
I think if you
Now-
had an ordinance, that spells out, before you can get the CO, you must install sidewalks, curbing, and driveway, or just sidewalks
You
and
have
curbing.
that.
So,
You have that obligation in this town.
right, we currently have that.
We have it, but
Yep.
it's not spelled out, is it?
Yeah.
And what it says is, if you want relief from that, you don't want to be, that to be the rule, you have to come to this board and have them say you don't have to comply. If you say we're not giving it, then I don't see any change to that ordinance, they'll have to comply with it.
I think that's where we get tripped up as a board sometimes, is that because we've been very forgiving as a board over the years and we haven't required curb and sidewalk, then when someone comes in, they say, well, there's no curb or sidewalk 2,000 feet to the left of me, 2,000 feet to the right of me, why am I going to be the one person with curb and sidewalk?
exactly.
But it has to start somewhere, right? If we
Right.
want to have curb and sidewalk places. Now, on county roads or state roads where there are drainage challenges surrounding curbing, specifically curbing, I think it's reasonable to listen to the county or the state and understand what is appropriate for them, to make sure we don't make their lives any more difficult. But where it comes to sidewalks, I believe that's really at the purview of this board. And if we want to extend more sidewalks, then we have to give less curb and sidewalk waivers.
And you should make it clear through the planning board office that these are not rubber stamps. These are going to be scrutinized.
Mhm.
Now, you're going to rely upon your professionals to say, no, in this particular instance, I don't think you should, even on a city street, I don't think you should put curb and sidewalk here because it's going to exacerbate certain things. Then you have a reason to grant it. But to this point in time, you've been simply granting them because nobody else has them. And you don't have to do that.
In other words, falls back on our shoulders then, that we gotta more or less be a lot more firmer and more direct to accomplish the task, right? Anybody else have any discussion? Anybody else
I
feel that's
don't-
sufficient?
I don't have any issues with that process.
You have
and
no
being
problem with it?
firmer as a board when it comes to curb and sidewalk waivers. We all want a really nice town, one nice community, a walkable community, a bikeable
Right.
community, and I think it'd be important for us to take that step and dive into each of these a little more deeply.
All right, then, I guess that's our route of travel from this day forward, should I say.
But ultimately, everyone has to vote their conscience. You have to vote what we're all individuals. We all have to vote what we firmly believe is the right route forward, and every application is different than the last.
Well, we would put- sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, no one application, well, you did this for one application, you didn't do this for other application. Every application has to live and die on its own merits.
We're all in agreement?
Well,
Very well, thank you.
so in the case of a county and state right away, we could deny the variance, and the county could say, you don't have to put it there.
Well, the county generally defers to Hammond. Unless.
But they don't have to.
They don't have to. I'm not sure with the sidewalks. The curb you would because it's in the right of way. On the sidewalks, I think you can handle it. I think because it's not on the property owner's property. But understand over periods of time, this board will change.
Mhm.
You may have had a feeling here under certain instances, you're not going to grant a variance for this. And then 10 years from now, you may change your mind as a collective body. But everybody, like was said, everybody votes their conscience. So if you decide in a particular instance that you think imposing a sidewalk and curb on a particular property owner, given their circumstances, is too harsh, then you can vote for a waiver, and a majority would rule. But I don't see the need to necessarily change the statute requiring sidewalk, because you require them. They just come here and there's a section of your code that basically says if you're not going to do it and you don't want to do it for whatever reason, you can come before this board and ask for an exception or a waiver. And I think everyone that's come in the past 3 years has been granted.
Well, we'll all have to come together. Everybody agree with that? Any further discussion?
I think there's a
Thank you.
liability issue
Pardon me?
involved. I think there's a liability issue involved also. If you're not putting a full run of sidewalk in, either end of that is a trip hazard.
Well, it's a little hard when you have lots, parts of towns where there's a lot here, one lot there, and there's no sidewalk. And you know it's not gonna get there for God knows when, because it's built out. How do you put the burden of someone to put a sidewalk there? Where, you know, there's other spots where you're starting and we say, okay, well, we're gonna build so many houses through it, you see it's developing, then you can put it together more.
Right, and that's why the applicant, under the statute, has always had to concede that, listen, if the town or the county decides we're gonna put sidewalks in, they have to participate in that joint process.
Well, that'd be assessment of benefits then, right?
Pardon?
If the county did it?
Yes.
Right, that'd be assessment of
And-
benefits,
and
right.
so,
right.
so basically, they're saying, you know, if you're deciding that one isolated sidewalk with miles of things doesn't make sense, you have them conceding that if everybody's gonna be connected, they would have to participate, and that sort of solves
It would
it.
have to be a project, like you said, the town's requiring, every house has to do it by this date, and that's it.
Very well, very well. Anybody else that wishes to be heard?
You do have to think
yeah.
about, and this property owner made the point, and I'll defer to the engineers and safety people, but if you have a sidewalk just in front of your house, but stepping off one end or the other puts you in harm's way, do you necessarily make things better or worse by encouraging the people on that lot to go on that sidewalk and then walk along the road? I don't know the answer to that, but that's all part of the analysis that you have to go through.
Okay, thank you, everybody, board members, solicitor, professionals. Anybody else wish to be heard this evening? Anybody have anything for the last word? Nothing for the last word. Okay, our next meeting will be November 2nd, hopefully if we get some applicants. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, members, for coming.